I'm going to do the backstory and then the current story. Deepwater Horizon disaster was the biggest environmental disaster in the United States. 210 million gallons of crude oil in the Gulf of Mexico in the year 2010. After this happened, yes or no, did monitoring equipment get shut off, and by who? Do you know of any kind of complaint about this happening? Or who did it? And who benefited? Who would benefit by not monitoring an oil spill caused by a specific company? And who got blamed instead? For the very short time anybody brought it up. Let's go forward a little less than a year. Fukushima disaster. For those of you who aren't aware of it, this was an earthquake that caused a tsunami and killed thousands of people. Or not, depending on who you're talking to. Because they make it about themselves by saying it caused them to have cancer because Fukushima killed thousands and made the west coast of the United States a molten lava mess, and the EPA, or them damn liberals, Hillary, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, Obama, all made sure that the testing equipment was defective or something, and then named names and told people to go harass them. Meanwhile, no one died from the radiation, absolutely, and only one person has been claimed, or at least allowed to be declared the single death from Fukushima, because the widow of the guy who died, who was a lifelong person working in the nuclear industry, eventually died from something that takes decades to have happen, and they decided to let her have her pension money from him. But no, it's not the earthquake and the tsunami killing people. Who cares about that? It's about me having cancer somewhere, getting PayPal money because y'all donating out of sympathy because I decided to declare my cancer that I was diagnosed with a year before Fukushima must be caused by Fukushima because I destroyed all the records on Facebook, and it's not caused by me being a drywaller for decades. And drywall caused him to get cancer, and that's Blanche. One of the things that's echoing recently is people complaining about Environmental Protection Agency or any other government somehow causing it, including claims that the fire in Ohio was caused by the government starting it. Anything other than the facts, I swear to God, the effort that goes through. But where does this come from? Well, after Deepwater Horizon disaster or any other disaster, industry people will then look for anything else to play up in the media so it drowns out whatever's happening. Because it's not in their best interest to let something come to the top of your search engine results. And Fukushima happened a little less than a year later, and let's lie about it. Who's it going to hurt? So people who did monitoring in Nebraska got fired upon one day from a pickup truck while someone yelled, "You're a globalist!" A chemtrail believer. There's a video on, not on YouTube, but on the internet, of somebody pointing a camera at the sky at clouds that are commonly occurring in the area, if the person didn't lie about seeing them months before, claiming that it had something to do, or at least implying it had something to do with the fire at the train derailment. And there may or may not be an unedited version of it, or less edited version, or just another take the person did, feigning being outraged. Telling people to go find EPA testing sites and burn them down or something because they weren't saying what they wanted to hear, or they're all in on it. Some people literally saying the EPA did this because that makes sense. You know what the EPA is? Random people offering test results, home hobbyists, including, yes, if you want to get a merit badge for the nuclear merit badge in the Boy Scouts, you could set up a monitoring station that monitored weather conditions. That was the real thing they wanted to do, and also monitor radiation. And you found out something. The planet gets hit with radiation on a regular basis. It's rather fascinating. And yeah, after Fukushima, some people decided to threaten Boy Scout troops because they weren't saying what they wanted to hear. Trump administration, 2017, deregulated pneumatic brakes being electronically controlled on trains when they had hazardous cargo. Lobbying efforts by Norfolk Southern Railroad Company. Or not. You're going to have to look it up. I mean, that's an assertion someone's making. 8:55 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2023. Near 210 homes and 4,800 people, East Palestine, Ohio. Norfolk Southern freight train, pulling 150 cars with multiple engines. 9 of these were empty. 141 were loaded. Not all of them were loaded with toxins. They could have been loaded with anything. Are you going to look up the manifest and find out what was affected? Or just keyboard commando it? 20 had hazardous materials in general. Now, of them, 14 of them might have been the vinyl chloride, or it's an additional 14. These containers are 2,400-gallon tankers for the vinyl chloride that I'm talking about. Let's assume that it was hazardous containers and the 14 vinyl chloride containers. Not that that was part of that hazardous group, although I would assume it is. Let's assume worst case scenario of the largest amount of material. That brings it up to 34 containers out of 150 cars, or 141 loaded. So let's assume over 100 cars were loaded with something not hazardous, not vinyl chloride. Do you have the story on that? Is the train company telling you what may or may not be contaminated on your store shelves? Or was it just, garbage or metals, or it could have been anything. Anyway, this thing derailed, exploded, caught on fire, leaked, poured stuff all over the ground, into ditches and quote-unquote culverts and sluices. The EPA monitoring system sampled the air quality that day and reported they had sample information indicating something was going on. Now, conspiracy theory idiots, they weren't monitoring before? And if they were, what were they monitoring for? They knew something was going to happen. No matter what answer you give, no matter how innocent or helpful it is, someone is going to demonize it. Now, I want you to put up your hand, and if you're a Christian, I want you to swear that you will renounce Christianity if you are lying about whether or not you jump to the negative conclusion first. Waiting. A lot of you are just suddenly realizing you're atheists. Because Governor Mike DeWine, on the 5th, a couple of days later, ordered evacuation of the town because, the area, that's intelligent. Lots of evacuations were talked about or done. By the 6th, Norfolk Southern crews caused 5 vinyl tanks to be ruptured and drained and burned off the vinyl chloride. Wait a minute, I heard Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, Obama, and everybody got involved, and Donald Trump was standing there like a warrior trying to stop them, but somehow was impotent and couldn't do it, or some other cartoonish thing, right? Anyway, a cloud of hydrogen chloride and phosgene and soot, because it's burning stuff and it's mixing with air badly, and it turns into heavy materials that will fall, usually pretty easily, went up in the air. Someone claimed that this had a potential, possibly, that could produce dioxins. So that became a headline on the 6th. Dioxin production, possible. Okay, I'm pretty sure, let's just assume the worst. I'm not kidding. Let's assume every horrible thing comes out of it. Dioxins are found in your road tar that's used to make your roads and is on the roof of your house. And every time a house burns down, you get dioxin poisoning. You get cancer-causing dioxins all over the fucking place. Yeah, but no. And Burma regulations. The EPA is evil. They shouldn't regulate monitoring oil spills off the coast. They shouldn't monitor radiation because it cuts into someone's bottom line in Madison Avenue. And they shouldn't be double-checking dioxins in your roofing materials because you got stock markets thinking about. Won't someone think of the stockholders? 2 counties had residents that reported a chemical smell because there was a burning fire in this stuff. Yeah, that's expected. Air monitoring showed volatile organic compounds from as soon as they started it all the way to the 8th approximately, and then it kind of burned out. Fire went shorter period of time like that, but you get the idea. And again, if it's really black smoke, most of the time that's going to fall in a short range. By the 8th, chemical spill had killed 3,500 fish over 7.5 miles of streams. According to the Ohio EPA, reporting through the news at the time, no vinyl chloride, benzene, chlorinated volatile organic compounds, or other materials, even partially related, were found in other waterways. So they knew which waterways had been affected, and they were dealing with them. They're going to have to siphon them and dredge them and haul it off someplace for toxic waste, or let it heal itself. It really depends on what's going on. You need to talk to organic chemists. On the 9th, toxins were only detected at the derailment site. EPA reports municipal drinking water from the sources of waterways that also showed themselves to be clean were all clean, but they're still monitoring them. Safe. Air quality levels inside and outside of the evacuation zone were found to be normal. Indoor air testing found no vinyl chloride, hydrogen chlorine, or any of the other compounds that were of concern as of the 12th of the month, or 3 days ago, in all 210 homes within the area. Now, obviously, walking around is going to stir shit up. Hosing down the ground and then testing the ground is a good idea. Class action lawsuit filed against Norfolk Southern Railway because they're the fault, not the EPA or Biden. Not chemtrails, which is what the subtext was for the video I was critiquing. They have to get them to pay for medical screening to determine if there's any health effects and to offer treatment to people, if they have one, if they're within 30-mile radius of this site, which is completely reasonable. And if I was the railway company, I'd say, you don't have to sue us. We're going to cover the medical coverage for the next 10 years, but they have to get blood tests and urine sample tests once a month or as often as possible to test to see if they have any exposure so that we can immediately rule out people who aren't really affected by it. But we're still going to give them, we're going to pay the premiums because that's easier than a lawsuit. And if we pay the premiums and prevent them from dying, or worse, getting cancer and really being a major medical problem, we won't have to pay as much. Hey, they get free medical coverage. You know, single payer system. Or the rail company can be a bunch of nitwits and end up costing themselves more money and looking like assholes. But what about Hillary and Hunter and Obama and Biden did that? EPA bad. Do you want more regulations so that this can't happen as easily because the brake systems work better? Then you inspect the trains more often now. You inspect the train rails more often. Or you inspect them at the rate they're supposed to be and brutally punish companies financially and publicly every time they avoid doing 8 months of rail and train truck, the mechanism at the bottom, truck, checking. What kind of... News Nation's Evan Lambert was asked to leave East Palestine school because he refused. He was charged with, and he is guilty of, criminal trespass. And he was there making a big snit and not doing anything productive, like saying, is the rail company just going to cover everybody medically and solve the problem? Are they going to improve testing of the equipment? Is the EPA ruling going to go back in? Are they going to start requiring these pneumatic and electrical systems for the brake systems be used on all trains so that it just universally make it required? So everybody has to have them. Or are you going to keep worrying about the bottom line of somebody in Madison Avenue or Wall Street and listen to their propaganda? The oil industry did propaganda. Anti-nuke people did propaganda. The only people not doing propaganda are citizen scientists not working for the EPA but doing EPA work. Keep up the good work, reporting on the important things amongst the media blackout. There isn't one. Probably the largest environmental disaster in U.S. history. Nope, not even close. You're upset folks may have gotten clouds wrong. No, I'm upset that someone overtly lied to people, and I pointed it out and you didn't get that. That's cool. Next video, maybe you can complain about the trains carrying 100 gallons less than they reported. Out of 14 train cars, each 24,000 gallons each, or a ridiculous amount of gallons total, you say 100 gallons are missing, or 1/3,000 of it, or 0.03% missing 100 gallons. It didn't give me a citation of where this is. I can't even look it up. And that's the error rate you get from weighing them. They don't measure the gallons most of the time. They weigh them to determine how much is in them. And then they measure it again afterwards by measuring it through a gallon meter. You're just wrong. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck.